Hi, my name is Ethan. Let me share with you all a story. So, a few years ago, I was standing at the edge of a pool at a swim competition. My heart was pounding in my chest as I waited for the referee's signal to start my 100 meters backstroke race. I had trained for this moment, I thought. Those grueling afternoon swim and fitness sessions should pay off now. So, as this was a backstroke race, I jumped into the pool with my feet facing down. I positioned myself to face the wall in order to grip on the handles of the starting block to start my race. When the referee gave the starting signal, I pushed off of the wall as hard as I could, and I was off. I could feel my head diving into the water. As the water rushed past my head, I kicked my legs as hard and as fast as I could. I extended my arms as straight as possible to keep myself in a streamlined fashion. But when the race ended and I looked up to the scoreboard, my heart sank. The result was not what I envisioned. It wasn't even close. Well, I got fifth place for that race. And after the race, I remember myself sitting by the pool, contemplating why I got that result, even though I did my best in trainings. I believed I worked hard, yet the results did not reflect it that day. So a few days after the competition, I decided it was time to get better. I started to put in 2 hours every day after school training for swimming. And during those trainings, I worked on reducing the rest time between my sets and working on building up my swim time for my repetitions. I believe that the harder I work, the faster I'll be. And if I put in more effort, I would finally succeed. But boy, I was wrong. The more effort I put in, the more frustrated I became. I became constantly thinking about the end results, even though before the race even started. I could feel the feeling of failure bear over my shoulders even before I went into the competing environment. So one day, after yet another disappointing swim trial, I was sitting by the edge of a pool and thinking why I wasn't able to attain my goals even though I worked so hard. So that day, in order to distract myself from the race, I was scrolling through my phone, and that's when I came across a video of a greyhound running in a dog park. And that greyhound in the video was especially similar to my adopted greyhound. So greyhounds are the fastest dogs in the world. And in that video, what captivated me wasn't the speed of the dog, but it was that sheer joy that was present in all her moments. Every stride the dog took was a sense of joy, as though she was running not to win it, but it was because she was running because she loved it. And reflecting about the greyhound running in a dog park made me realize that swimming should also be about the freedom I felt in the water, the challenge of pushing myself to my limits, and the idea of the joy that I have. So from that day onwards, I shifted my mindset to not just only focus on the results, but focus on the entire outcome. So there was a study published on Frontiers titled The Power of Competition: Effects of Social Motivation on Attention, Sustained Physical Effort, and Learning. And in that study, it showed that participants that are in the right mindset can easily outperform others in a competitive setting. And in that study, there was also an experiment that showed that participants had a faster reaction time when they believed they were competing with others versus working alone with themselves. But what's even more fascinating in this study that was done by Bryn C. Demenci and Elizabeth Tricomi is that how we frame competition. So if we see competition as a threat or as a daunting task, then we're less likely to succeed. But if we approach competition as a challenge, a way to push ourselves beyond our limits, then we're likely to propel ourselves to new heights. So for so long, the fear of failure in competition has dominated my mindset. It wasn't only holding me back, it was actually dragging me down. So another study that was done by the National Institute of Health, titled Understanding How the Brains Track Social Status and Competition. And in that study, it shows that our brains are wired to respond to competition. So areas like the prefrontal cortex and the ventricle striatum lights up, which are areas that are linked to human motivation. And in that study, it's very fascinating to know that how we perceive ourselves in a competitive environment also affects how we are performing. So our social status in a competing environment plays a huge role. So if we see ourselves not as good as others or inferior to others, then we're less likely to succeed. But if we see ourselves as a confident individual and approach competition with a growth mindset, then we're likely to push ourselves to new heights. So for so long, competition has been a daunting task for me. And from that day onwards, I tried to shift my focus away from the scary part of competition. So I approached every swimming competition as a platform for me to increase my personal skills and also as a way to know where I can push my limits. And swimming has also been a better task for me to develop my own personal skills. So from those competitions, I started to ask myself questions like, what can I learn from my competitors? How can I improve from this experience? So over time, my time started to drop as I set new personal bests. And I start to attain my personal goals too. So healthy competition does not only has to apply for sports. For example, it can also apply to applying for universities. So when you apply to universities, you can seem like you are always competing with others, and your extracurriculars, your essays, and your grades could be an indicator to measure your self-worth. And it's very easy to think that you're not good enough than others. But what if you approach that as how I approach swimming? What if you ask yourselves, what can I improve from this experience? What can I learn from others? So whether you're actually applying for universities or applying for a job or preparing for exam, you have to remember it's not always about being better than others. It's being the better version of yourself. And when you focus on growth and not just the outcome, you don't just win the race. You will find joy and purpose in that journey. And that is what I believe that we should always be after. Thank you.